The college football experience, week 12, Dantabase top 25 episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Bet365. Bet365 is offering new users a $1,000 risk-free bet. Sign up today at sportsgamblingpodcast.com/bet365. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, a sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use that promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today, people. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Game Time has last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Use the promo code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. And in honor of Veterans Day, everything in the merch store is 10% off with the promo code VETS, VETS. All proceeds from the sale will be donated to Mission 22, a nonprofit serving those who have served.
This is Jerry Glanville, and you're listening to SGPN. Let it ride, brother.
Yes. Woo! Welcome to the college football experience. Dantabase college football week 12, top 25 episode. Yes, the football season is continuing to roll along. It's happening too fast, man. I love the month or so that we get where we get basketball and football, I guess 2 months, but it'll be better when we get a loaded playoff system moving forward. But we still got the invitational 4-game. It's going to be a 12-team invitational next year, but that's better than a 4-team invitational. It's a start, and we're excited for it. And this episode, folks. Well, first, subscribe to the college basketball experience as well, as we have nightly shows there. Every single night of the college basketball season, we are live, and college football, we're live 6 days a week. So later tonight, we have the week 12 preview and picks episode. I'm really looking forward to that. Tomorrow, we got a DFS episode scheduled for early in the morning, as well as FCS week 12, the final week of the FCS regular season. We got you covered there on the FCS college football experience as well. But yeah, this episode, what we try to do is try to look at college football without the bullshit. Really, college football, I think, is one of the greatest things ever. But you definitely have corruption to the highest extent, and I think a lot of times the poll system, you see the corruption to some of the highest extent. NCAA picking and choosing their battles also would be another one, but there's a lot of it. But look, we try to look at it from a straight thing here and say, wait, these are the most deserving teams. I've had comments say, no, well, what was the point of it? You're just wasting your fucking breath. Well, yeah. I mean, first off, we're a talk show. You could argue that all talk shows are a waste of breath. But also we try to pencil in the way that it should be right. And maybe one day some people will start listening. I don't even know if I'm not optimistic about that, but I'm just going to make the point of the way it should be done. If you're wondering who the fuck you're listening to, that's fair. My name is Colby Swinging Dantabase Dan, AKA Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
Nobody knows nothing. Somebody knows. Double the price, but no one touches Dundee.
What a time to be alive and rocking. We got Maction on. We got college hoops on. Tough to beat tonight. Tough to beat November, December, January. Let's get to it. Shout out to the chat first off. I see the chat is rocking along. Daquan the Great, wondering where the Huskies will be. or Ural Worthy. Want to know about his Georgia Bulldogs, and shout out to Hoover 4338 catching the live Dundee broadcast, and DeZong finally catching a live show. Shout out to that. You can watch this episode youtube.com/the college experience. And yeah, so what I try to do here is I try to jot down what I think is the 25 best teams based on resume. I think it's a very hard exercise when you have 133 teams. But I think it is not as hard as what some committee members. You don't need 8 hours in a fucking hotel room to figure this out. But let's get to it because I think one of the flaws with the committee, or it really, especially the playoff committee, is they move the goalpost nonstop. They're never consistent, and that's why I believe it's more of a TV ratings thing than an actual, like, I think they do that show for TV ratings. They don't really it's kind of just bullshit. It's like I don't know. It's just bullshit, but let's try to look at it the way it should be done. All right. But before I do that, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Vets Merch. In honor of Veterans Day, everything in the merch store is 10% off with the promo code VETS. All proceeds from these sales will be donated to Mission 22, a nonprofit serving those who have served. So support a great cause and score some sweet gear. Go to store.sportsgamblingpodcast.com. Promo code VETS. We're also brought to you by Bet365. Bet365 is the world's favorite sportsbook, trusted by over 88 million players worldwide. They got props. They got sides. They got totals. All right, they got live betting. Bet365 has you covered with whatever it is you want. And look, sign up today and choose from 2 bonus offers, either a $1,000 no sweat bet, or bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets. Just head to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/bet365. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/bet365, or sign up with the link in the show bio. Problem with gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We're also brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has a way to play alongside your favorite fantasy players all season long. They got NFL, NBA, NHL, college basketball, college football. Simply pick higher or lower on your favorite players' fantasy stats and cash in. Let's look at that right now. Gavin Wimsatt of Rutgers has a over/under. I'm sorry. Has a higher or lower of a 117.5 passing yards. That's at Penn State. I will take the under on 117.5. But this is what's great about it. You can find it. Drew Aller. I know he's had his struggles lately, but I would probably, I'll take the over on 11.5 rushing yards. He's going to run for a first down against that stout Rutgers Scarlet Knight defense. Nicholas Singleton over 6.5 or 63.5 rushing yards. I like it. They fired their OC. So this is what's great about Underdog, is they can load you up with this. So check that out. Watch along, make picks, maybe make a little extra cash on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up with the promo code SGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. All right, we are back on the college football experience. Dantabase top 25 went up to James S in the chat saying, "What up?" At number 25 for me. I spent a couple hours doing this. I think the Utah Utes are worthy of number 25. I think if you look at Utah's wins, I know the non-con. Well, first off, they play 11 Power Fives. All right. And their 12th game was Weber State, who's a decent FCS. Kudos on the scheduling. If everyone's scheduled like that, they'd have a lot more losses. But Florida, that win's looking more and more shaky. Baylor's looking more and more shaky in the non-con, even though it's at Baylor. You got to reward them for a road game at another Power Five. But the USC win looks a little worse too. So you kind of get all of these wins looking a little worse. UCLA's win. However, I do believe the resume, just from the fact you play 11 Power Fives, someone should be rewarding that. Someone should be rewarding that. When you have teams like Georgia, or Oklahoma, Oklahoma didn't play a Power Five in the non-con. Georgia, I guess technically has Georgia Tech, but Michigan didn't. All right. And you have Utah that goes out and play. First off, they play a 9-game conference schedule, and then they schedule 2 Power Fives in the non-con. You have to reward that. And that is why I think the Utah Utes should be ranked over a lot of different, teams that are in that range between 25 and 40. That is, I think that's a solid number 25. Shout out to James there. Next up, let's jump on over to number 24. And that to me is the Iowa Hawkeyes. I actually had a hard time with Utah and Iowa. Utah has more losses, but Iowa hasn't played nearly the competition that Utah has played. So it's kind of like I would have no problem with them reversed. But at the end of the day, I thought I was, probably should only have one loss. That terrible call on the return for Cooper DeJean. I know he just got injured and he's out for probably the season. But and I know that Penn State loss looks even worse with the way Penn State performed against Ohio State and Michigan. However, the Iowa State win continues to look better. Even the likes of that Utah State non-con win looks better and better. As I think the Aggies are going to get to a bowl, and then you go one by one within the conference. I know Rutgers is ass, but once again, as I make my case of why I think ESPN strength of schedule is stupid, because they honor. Okay, so when Rutgers plays Nebraska, someone's got to win that game. When Illinois plays Northwestern, someone's got to win that game. So you get teams with winning records, and it kind of, in my opinion, dilutes the strength of schedule system. Because if you're honoring that as such a big win, I don't know that that's that good of a win. I think that's kind of the same as like an average Conference USA win. You know what I mean? Like, or not necessarily each one of those, but I'm saying, it should be a little more situational. It shouldn't just be matter of fact, which I think they kind of go matter of fact of a P5 win. But Iowa did beat 6-2 Rutgers last week and whooped their ass, shut them out at home. That's got to mean something. Also, you look at that Wisconsin win. I know that win got worse, but it's still a nice road win. Once again, Iowa State was a road win. Winning on the road always matters more to me in college football. And I think altogether, the fact that Iowa's lost less than Utah and the fact they didn't play an FCS, got to reward that. So I got the Iowa Hawkeyes at 24. At 23, I got the Kansas State Wildcats. Kansas State is kind of like, to me, one of the harder teams to because they have 3 losses, which is more than Iowa, right? But at the same time, one of them was a 63-yard field goal loss, SEC's longest kick ever, to Mizzou, who continues to impress. The others to Texas in a game K-State probably should have won. But that was actually K-State's fault. They went for a 4th and 4 in overtime. That was stupid. Should have just continued to play the game. I think they would have won. And then you have the bad Oklahoma State loss in Stillwater on a Friday night. Still, I think it's a pretty damn good resume, especially when you consider some of these blowouts they've been dealing people. So I think K-State's deserving of 23. I think their wins are better than Iowa's wins. So that's the logic there. I also think their losses are better than Iowa's losses. So they're mainly one big loss. Kansas State at number 23. At number 22, I got the Oklahoma State Cowboys. They have the same record as Kansas State. I understand Kansas State never got embarrassed like that, to UCF or South Alabama, so I had a hard time doing this one. But I think the straight up win means enough right now that you have to honor Oklahoma State. I think it's close too. I think it's very, very close. But the Cowboys just got destroyed in. They dropped like what 10 spots I think from a week ago, as they got destroyed at the Moon Bounce, which we were on here. We were on UCF minus the points, and they still control their own destiny. They still have great wins, but yeah, you lose and you get your ass whooped the way you did. You got to drop back. At number 21, I got the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Notre Dame's one where they didn't even do anything really, and they just moved up. Their straight the schedule is really tough though. When you actually look at Notre Dame's schedule, it's going to get easier the next 2 weeks with Wake and Stanford. But you look at some of the other wins now, you're starting to say, okay, obviously Ohio State, top 5 team. That was a loss, but I'm saying there's no shame in that. And then your loss to Louisville, they're like a top 10 team. So you have both of those. Doesn't look as bad. Obviously the Clemson loss stings a little bit though. But then after that, you look at the wins, USC, decent. NC State, decent. Duke, decent. They have a lot of decent wins. So that was the logic with having Notre Dame at number 21. I actually think their strength of schedule is pretty fucking hard this year. Some years I'll question it. This year I think it's pretty fucking hard. At number 20, I got the Arizona Wildcats. I got a little song for that. W-I-L-D Cats. W-I-L-D Wildcats. W-I-L-D Cats. This is one of my favorite stories in college football this year. I know you have so many narratives with Coach Prime at Colorado, which I love that story too. You have, so many great stories, whether it's the Michigan thing, on whatever side of the story you're on that. Florida State getting back to where they belong, they believe they belong. Georgia life after Stetson Bennett. Texas back. You got a lot of great stories in college football this year, but one of the ones, and what's crazy is when you really dive into Arizona. Remember, Arizona was starting Jaden DeLora the first 4 weeks of the season. He's a solid quarterback, and I expect him to be starting somewhere else next year. But ever since Noah Fafita came in, I mean, this team lost in couple overtimes. They probably should have beat USC. I think if you watch that game, you say USC is probably the better, or Arizona's probably the better team. You look at these losses. 2 overtime losses and a 7-point home loss to Washington. I mean, this team is very, very close to being undefeated, and they are fucking red hot right now. What is it? What are they? 4 or 5 straight wins? Arizona Wildcats, well deserving of a ranking, in my opinion. Especially, I mean, I know the loss to Washington is a good loss. The loss to USC is not that bad of a loss, but the loss to Mississippi State week 2 is a horrible loss. But I think it was a completely different team. They were starting a different quarterback. And that was an overtime loss on the road in Starkville. So shit happens, man. I think they severely outgained Mississippi State too, if memory serves me correct. Anyway, number 19, I got the Ole Miss Rebels staying in the state of Mississippi there. I mean, I think this team's counterfeit. I was Georgia minus the points last week, and but resume. And if we're gonna do it, it's not about what we think. It's about what we know, and that's resume. The resume says they have a win against Tulane, right? Tulane, I know Michael Pratt was out, but at the same time, they do have now 3 losses, and one of them was horrible. 52-17. So I think they deserve to be ranked. They beat LSU. They beat Tulane. I think those are probably the 2 best wins. A&M, decent win. So I think Ole Miss deserving of number 19. And they have ULM and the Egg Bowl on deck. They're probably going to go 10-2. It's a big year for Lane Kiffin. Number 18, the Penn State Nittany Lions. So I sat there and thought, what is if you're ranking Penn State and Ole Miss? Penn State's only got 2 losses. Ole Miss has 3. Or I'm sorry, Ole Miss has 2. What am I talking about? Ole Miss has 2. Penn State has 2. And it's actually, you could make the argument that Tulane and LSU are better wins than Iowa and West Virginia, which I think are the 2 best wins for Penn State. So then you ask yourself, who's the 3rd best win? And also, how about those wins? I think Penn State's been a little more dominant than Ole Miss from a score perspective. So that was my logic at the end of the day. I also believe, I believe the non-con, I don't know, because UMass, but like Delaware's a really good FCS team. Delaware is like a FBS team in the FCS. Got to give that a little more merit. I mean, Mercer's not terrible either, but Delaware's certainly better than Mercer. Then West Virginia against Georgia Tech, or West Virginia against Tulane. You could make the case, but once again, Ole Miss has 4 non-con games. Penn State's got 3. So you have to add one of those Big Ten teams in. I think all said and done, the way Penn State's won in those other games is the difference for me in ranking Penn State slightly above Ole Miss. I'm okay with the argument either way, though. Like if they would have ranked that honestly and just had them back to back or vice versa, I would not be bitching. At number 17, and I'd made this before they won last night. I'm not including last night's win because of the Maction, but that will be included next week. Is number 17 Toledo, who's basically 2 points away from being undefeated. Back to the season opening game in Champaign, where they pretty much led the whole entire game and somehow lost it in the final minute. But Toledo, I think, is well deserving of number 17. Whoa, Dundee, how the fuck are you putting Toledo ahead of Penn State? Well, look, it's not my fault or their fault or whoever's fault that Toledo plays in the MAC, but the fact is they've only lost 1 game. It was by 2 points at Illinois, a Big Ten opponent, in a game they were up 90% of the fucking game. I know the resume, but if they're in the FBS, which they are, just like Penn State, you must honor the fact they're beating all these other FBS teams. And the fact is they only have 1 loss. It would be a lot easier if we had a playoff system that just had fucking auto bids for every conference. But for some stupid reason, the corruption in the FBS ruins that. Never lets that happen. But I think if we're going to do this cockamamie system, Toledo needs to be ahead of a team with 2 losses right now. I have Toledo ahead of Penn State. They've also won more road games than Penn State. So, at number 16, I got the North Carolina Tar Heels. Now, this one's tricky, especially when you look at North Carolina Penn State resume, or putting North Carolina above Toledo. But I actually think North Carolina's resume is a little bit better than all of those other 2-loss teams, and even better than Toledo that only has 1 loss. I think North Carolina's counterfeit. I do, but it's not about what I think. It's about the resume. And I feel like with App State looking better and better, and all of a sudden competing for potentially a Sun Belt championship, that's a great one. And then Minnesota in the non-con, bowl team, it looks like it's going to be. That's got to matter some. And then South Carolina in the non-con, they've played 10 Power 5s, App State and Campbell, who's a decent FCS, or an average FCS, I should say. A little bit better than average. I think their resume is a little harder than some of the other ones we've got out there. But you look at Penn State, what's their best win? It's Iowa, 31-0. Number 2 is probably West Virginia. Carolina's wins they have a slew of decent wins. You know what I mean? Like beating Duke is a good win. Now I know you could say Duke didn't have their starting quarterback, but that's not Carolina's fault. That's a good win. How many wins against teams with a winning record? Carolina's gotten more. So as much as I believe they're counterfeit, you look at the wins, you look at the resume, the Miami win, you know what I mean? Like they're just a little more meat to the bone to me than say Penn State's, despite now the argument against this, which I think is decently valid, is Penn State hasn't lost a shitty competition. But I still say Carolina won this past week. You know, I think the resume is a little bit better on the wins than the losses. So that's my logic there. I have Carolina at number 16. At number 15, I've got the Oregon State Beavs. What a dominating performance against Stanford as they prepared to play good old Washington in Corvallis. The last time they've been playing since the fucking 1800s, and we're just gonna piss that rivalry. Hey, thank you. World. Appreciate you, TV execs, just pissing on a fucking 130-year fucking rivalry. But Oregon State is, I think, well worthy of this. Their 2 losses were by 3 points each, both on the road and against pretty decent competition. So I think the Beavs are worthy of the number 15 spot in the country. And yeah, they also have played a slew of road games. They had a non-con game on the road as well. So give them the respect they deserve. At number 14, I have the Oklahoma Sooners. Look, I think Oklahoma's counterfeit. I've told you this before, but holy shit, they look good last week. I got nothing bad to say about their performance last week. I don't even know what the hell. I don't even know what to say about that. That was really impressive. I did not see that coming. I still think the resume is pretty shitty. But okay, the SMU win looks good, but SMU hasn't beat a team with a winning record. They're fucking 10 weeks into the season. They haven't beat a team with a winning record. The Iowa State win looks really good. The Texas win looks really good. The Dub V win now looks really good. So they have built a decent resume. They also, both their losses were by a combined 7 points. You got to give that some credit, even though the non-con was a fucking joke. You got to give that credit right now. And I would put Oklahoma at number 14. At number 13, I got the Tulane Green Wave. They're a lot like Oklahoma to me. I don't buy in. They keep winning close. But you can also say that the fact they didn't have Michael Pratt for that Ole Miss game, which was a very deceiving final score because that game was very close with like 3 minutes left. They might be undefeated. I actually tend to think they would have been undefeated, but it's not about what I think. It's about the resume, and the resume says they're 9-1 in a pretty solid conference, which is better than Toledo's conference. They have a nice road win or 2 on that resume. And that's enough for me. The South Alabama win, once again, South Alabama dominated Oklahoma State. Tulane dominated South Alabama. Tulane won by double digits at Memphis, who's currently 8-2. So they have some nice wins, and I think that's enough. Do I think they're counterfeit? I kind of do, but this year everyone almost is counterfeit. I mean, fuck. Let's get to it. Number 12, the Liberty Flames, the Flaming Libs. Look. I mean, they just win. It's not their fault that they didn't play a P5, but I'll be honest, they just win. How many close games? It was like the Sam Houston game and Middle Tennessee. They've played like 2 close games all year. The rest have been dominating performances. I know they have UMass and UTEP left, and they're probably going to go 12-0. And I think it's great for college football. I think it's great for the Liberty fans. I think it's great for the Conference USA, and I look forward to them continuing to build on this because I think they're it's a great story seeing the Flaming Libs have success on the field. I got them at number 12, and I think they're deserving of it. They've beat everyone on the schedule. Like I said, only 2 close games all year. You could sit there and say the same for a lot of other teams. So there's that. At number 11, the Missouri Tigers. Eli Drinkowitz doing a great job. Really, when you look at it, I thought they should have beat LSU. They let them off the hook. You go back to that game and say, damn, they would be 9-1 if it wasn't for that game. And yeah, they lost at Georgia, but they played Georgia better than anyone we've seen this year. You wonder what if you had that 12-team playoff this year, what would the Missouri Tigers be doing? Unbelievable job. And I'll be the first to say it. I was a skeptic on Drinkowitz. I admit I was wrong, but I took the over this year for the record. Last year though, I was definitely talking shit about Eli Drinkowitz. Took the over on 7 wins and we've cashed that. And yeah, I feel pretty good about that. That's my number 11 team. I also think the resume, when you look at the non-con win against Kansas State and look at the way they beat down Tennessee. I know they have Florida and Arkansas left and they got to get through those. I know they had a close scare with Middle Tennessee early in the year as well. But all in all, what a big step forward for Eli Drinkowitz and the Missouri Tiger program. All right, I'm going to get to the top 10 here. And remember, we're back in 2 hours talking Week 12 college football preview and picks with Patty C and NC Nick and myself. But look, before we get to the top 10, I want to tell you that the college football experience is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be that stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all sports, music, comedy, and theater that is near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll be having at that very event. All right? So what are you doing, folks? Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use that promo code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, terms apply. Create that account, redeeming code CFBX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Research every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com. Use that promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, here we are getting to the top 10. At number 10, I got the Oregon Ducks, who just continue to dominate. What's crazy about this one here is the Ducks. The resume is not as great as you think it is. In fact, I think they only have 2 wins against teams with winning records. But hey, it's 2 wins. USC. And what? Yeah, Texas Tech might end with a winning record. So there's that. But their 2 wins are Utah and USC. The rest are all losing teams. So yeah, you know that's got to mean something. But at the same time, they did go to Lubbock and win. They got a few more road wins than a lot of other schools. So we honor them at number 10. At number 9, this is my shake up here. I have the Louisville Cardinals dropping back a spot despite winning against Virginia. It was an ugly win. They almost lost to a bad Virginia team. And I think the way that this next team played on the road in Lexington, I swapped them and put them over there. So at number 9, I do have the Louisville Cardinals. I think their resume, once again, they played a lot more away games than a lot of teams, but it's a close call against the Wahoos there. And as they buckle up now, I will say they have a chance next week to hop back over Alabama. So I have Alabama at 8. This will be the first time that I have Alabama above Louisville in a couple weeks. They both have the same record. Louisville's played more Power 5 teams. Louisville's played more road games. However, Alabama's domination in Lexington's got to mean something. And remember, we see the Governor's Cup this year. Louisville's going to be hosting Kentucky in 2 weeks. So a chance to compare resumes there, but also this week, Alabama plays Chattanooga. What the fuck? So look, if Louisville beats Miami in Miami Gardens, I will probably put Louisville back over Alabama because that resume is going to get a lot better. But right now, I think the way Alabama's dominating, you got to put Alabama above the Louisville Cardinals. At number, so 8 is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Saban's got them playing ball. This is what's so great about a large playoff. Unfortunately, not this year, but it would be very fun to see Bama in with Milroe. Can you imagine? Because let's say Georgia wins the SEC, Bama getting in, having to go to Eugene or something, or vice versa. Fucking fantastic. Got to get these games on campus, though. They got to get these games on campus. Second round too. I know the first round they're doing it, but I just think college football continues to sell itself short, and college basketball too on these neutral site games. I mean, I like that Duke Michigan State game and that Kansas Kentucky game, but I still think they should rotate those things on campus. Everyone wins more when that happens. At number 7, I got the Texas Longhorns though, and Texas deserves. There's speculation here with Alabama hop Texas. If that happens, you'll see another example of just a terrible system, because Texas went into Tuscaloosa and won by double digit win on the road. That you should not put if Texas goes, 12-1, wins the Big 12 championship, and Alabama goes, or let's say they both lose in the conference championship. Let's say Alabama goes and loses to Georgia, and Texas goes and loses to, I don't know, Oklahoma State or something, or Kansas State. Or Oklahoma could still be. I still say Texas, they have the same record. They played in Tuscaloosa. That win's got to mean something. If not, that's the argument. You have all these people that say, well, I love college football because the regular season means so much. No. I'd argue the complete opposite. Oftentimes it might mean something for like 2 teams because they decide to put them in. But I would argue the other side of that coin, there's so many games that, because of the system, that are deemed useless. A waste of a game. Why'd you even play? We've seen it a bunch of times. I could go one by one with situations. But Texas is, they have the best resume of any one-loss team. And I fucking hate Texas. I would rather see Alabama in. I'd rather see Louisville in. I'd rather see, Oregon in. I fucking hate Texas, but they have the best resume. They didn't play in FCS. Their non-con is at Bama, home to Wyoming, home to Rice. Wyoming and Rice. I mean, I think Rice ends up in a bowl game. Wyoming's already a bowl team. That's a good resume. All right, at number 6, I got the James Madison Dukes. They drop despite blowing out the UConn Huskies. It still makes sense to drop them, and I'll explain. Georgia and Michigan were previously behind JMU, and I thought it made complete sense to have JMU above them, but Georgia just beat the piss out of Ole Miss. Michigan just went to Penn State and dominated the Nittany Lions. There's no way I can make logical sense of anything in JMU's resume, like especially the Michigan win. But Georgia now, when you add in some of the other wins, it's not comparable right now. And I don't think there's a way back for JMU unless Georgia loses a game. So that's the difference of the Sun Belt and the SEC and the Sun Belt and the Big Ten or whatever. So they fall back, but they're still well deserving of a top 10. I'd argue that with anybody. They deserve to be in the top 10. At number 5, I got the Georgia Bulldogs. They might be the best team in the nation, but the resume still says number 5 to me. Yes, they looked dominant last week. But at the same time, if we watch, what were the big teams they now Missouri's win looks really good. That's their best win. Outside of that, I don't think Auburn's very good, even though they dominated Arkansas. That's not a great win. Florida win looks worse. Vanderbilt's complete ass. South Carolina's complete ass. The Kentucky win looks worse. So you're sitting there struggling. UAB looks like fucking shit. Ball State is trash in the MAC. So you're just sitting there saying, well, what do we really have here? But that win against Ole Miss means something. That's actually their best 2 wins. Ole Miss and Missouri the past 2 weeks. That is why Georgia hops over them. At number 4, I got Michigan. Now comparing Michigan and Georgia's resumes it's tricky because I do believe Georgia has probably played better opponents than Michigan at thus far. If we were to stop the season right now. However, I believe Michigan has played better opponents on the road than Georgia. And that is the difference to me. And I also believe the non-con for Michigan actually better than Georgia's currently. Remember, Georgia hasn't played Georgia Tech yet. So Georgia's toughest opponent in the non-con, it might be the FCS opponent in UT Martin. Meanwhile, Michigan didn't play an FCS and they have a UNLV win there. They also have a Bowling Green win there, which Bowling Green bowl eligible in the MAC. So I think Michigan's deserving of the number 4 spot. At number 3, the Washington Huskies stay. I know the chat was asking about this earlier. I think they deserve to stay there. I mean, I know that's a great win against Utah. It's just comparing the resumes. I think you have to go now. I would have no problem if you took Washington at 2 and moved someone back to 3. Really, any of these top 3 schools you could argue, but I think I have this right. So Washington's non-con was Boise. So they didn't play an FCS. It was Boise State, Tulsa, and Michigan State. All 3 of them are kind of asses. Your Boise's the actually I think the best team of the 3, but it just didn't work out. That's not Washington's fault. They scheduled aggressively. Tulsa just won the AAC a couple years ago. Remember, these are scheduled a couple years out, so that shouldn't penalize them. But you have to penalize them a little bit because this is the flaw of the system. Ohio State's resume. Yes, Ohio State played an FCS, but they have a win over Penn State, a win over Notre Dame at Notre Dame. Washington's best road win is at USC, right? I think at we saw Notre Dame beat USC and beat them bad. So I think you got to honor Ohio State at number 2. They went from number 1 to number 2. And the main reason is Michigan State sucks ass. And Florida State is back to number 1 because Miami is better than, I think when you compare the resumes now between Ohio State and Florida State. Now, Florida State plays North Alabama this upcoming week. So I do not expect them to be number 1 next week. But I think right now, and that's what it should be. They should be looking at it right now, not moving forward. I think Florida State's got the best resume in the nation right now. Seminoles should be ranked number 1. In my opinion, if you put me on that panel. Folks, this is the Dantabase Top 25, and that is done. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Folks, subscribe to the College Football Experience. We're on Twitter, or follow us on Twitter at TCE on SGPN. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. We'll be back in about 2 hours, less than 2 hours, like an hour and 45 minutes with Week 12 college football preview and picks. We got an awesome slate. Buckle up, folks. Maybe you disagree with my top 25. Hop on Twitter, hop in the Discord, sportsgamblingpodcast.com/Discord. Tell me I'm a fucking idiot. It's fair. All right. Also, get the SGPN app. It's free to download in the App Store and Google Play Store. And remember, folks, that that you can watch this on YouTube, youtube.com/the college experience. That's the home for all of our stuff. Right. Subscribe to the College Football Experience, the FCS College Football Experience podcast, iTunes, Spotify, College Basketball Experience live every single night, College Baseball Experience, myself, Noah Beanick, go into full swing in February, the Big 12 Experience with Moneyline Mac talking everything Big 12. Check out all of those podcasts. We come together as one on YouTube, youtube.com/the college experience. And subscribe, tell a friend, give us 5 stars on iTunes if you haven't already. Shout out to DeZong in the chat. They want you on that panel. I need you on that panel, folks. Be back in about an hour and 30 minutes. Let's go. I love this fucking thing. This weekend's college football slate. I know this is when like the ACC and SEC try to ruin it with like North Alabama and Florida State and Chattanooga and Alabama, but no, there's enough good games out there. Let's go, folks. Until next time, this is the College Football Experience Dantabase Top 25. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
Run and shoot. We can really run and shoot.